Uncertainty lies ahead as Phase 1 of the Gaza hostage ceasefire deal approaches its end. Israeli families are anxiously awaiting the return of the 63 remaining hostages. I recently spoke with Pastor Andrew Brunson, who spent 2 years in a Turkish prison before his release in 2018. He wrote about his experience in the book God's Hostage. What are your thoughts when you see these hostage families and you see the hostage release? And what would you like to see happen there?
When I see the reunions, it really moves me because I remember just the desperation, the desperate longing I had for freedom and to be with my family. And so then I see these people coming together after not knowing if they'll ever see each other again. And I know what they're feeling. Now, I also remember what broke me, because I did break in my imprisonment, and then God rebuilt me in my second year. But it's the uncertainty, not knowing what's going to happen, if I would ever be released, the fear, which is very overwhelming, and also isolation. And I think those are the same things that many of them are experiencing. And I think especially uncertainty was devouring me. And it's very difficult to deal with not knowing what's going to happen, if you will ever get out, if you'll ever see your loved ones again, or if you'll die in that situation. And that's what really tests the heart, I think.
I think last time we met, you talked about feeling distant from God.
I felt abandoned by God. During those 2 years, I lost a sense of God's presence. And I think that was part of the testing that God was allowing me to go through, is what will I do when the feelings of love for God are under pressure? And it's no longer emotions. It's much easier to feel good about God when I'm experiencing His love. And what happens when I don't have His presence? Am I still going to love Him when I don't see His love? Am I still going to be faithful when I don't see His faithfulness in a practical way?
Well, how about these hostage families? I mean, it's got to be, look, these are God's chosen people. I don't know, some of them may be faithful. I'm sure many of them turned to God that time. Can you imagine what they're going through and what they're experiencing, not knowing, and maybe even blaming God? Is that something that happens? Do you blame God for what happens to you?
It's hard not to. And this is something that happens not only in desperate situations like imprisonment or being a hostage, but people go through this when they go into crisis. We blame God. And especially for those of us who are believers, we say, God, why aren't you intervening? This is the problem of suffering, right? If God is all-powerful and He's loving. And I had to make a conscious decision to repeat again and again, no, God, you are faithful. You do love me, even if I don't feel it, even if I don't see it. You are good. You are true. And to say these things, even when my emotions are in turmoil and in darkness, but with my will, I can choose to speak what is true.
You worked 23 years in Turkey, 2 years in prison there, so I think you know the culture and the society very well. You probably are very familiar with Erdogan. He recently met with al-Jilani, the new leader of Syria. So what do you think he's up to? Does he want to reestablish an Ottoman Empire, or is he just trying to gain influence with Syria?
Well, I don't know that they can reestablish the Ottoman Empire, but certainly there is going to be influence. And I think we're going to see in the next years, especially with some decline in the U.S., just the geopolitical situation is going to change. And I think you'll see regional powers that are going to begin to exert themselves more. And Turkey is a regional power. It ruled the Middle East, North Africa, and the Balkans not so long ago. And so I think that remains there. They're starting to spread their influence into areas where they ruled before.
And then recently we saw King Abdullah of Jordan welcoming al-Jilani to Jordan. So what's going on here? Are we seeing a new alliance maybe of Jordan, Syria, and Turkey against Israel or against Iran?
My sense is that I think that Turkey, Russia, and Iran will move together in some alliance. I know that's counterintuitive. generally have not been friends before. I had a dream about this in prison that was from God. I had very few dreams from God, but this was one. And I saw them moving in a dark alliance. This was in 2016, before they started to move together. And then it started to happen. And so I think there are spiritual ties there. So I don't know what will happen with Jordan. They're going to be under tremendous pressure right now. But I think there is an alliance that will continue in a darker direction, and that will it will eventually, in the end, try to undermine Israel. Yes, I think we're just going into a more turbulent world. I think one of the things we do when we visit, because we're still involved in the Muslim world, and when I talk to Christians there, I say, I know that there's pressure now of persecution, but I'm sorry to say it's going to increase in the future. And this is because the West is pulling back from a value for religious freedom. Religious freedom is under pressure in the West itself, and so they're no longer going to defend it in other countries. And this means that pressure will rise in many places overseas.
Andrew Brunson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.